As the title indicates, this is the third program in relation to the beast, and actually it's the last program on that particular subject. In our last program, we saw that Revelation 12 refers to a dragon who symbolises Egypt, and he's presented with 7 heads and 10 horns. The 10 horns, I believe, represent a 10-fold confederacy of anti-Israel Muslim nations, and the 7 heads tells us that the dragon and 10 horns is the 7th beast phase in the history of the nation of Israel, starting with ancient Egypt. The dragon is depicted making war with the woman, who is seen wearing a crown of 12 stars, representing, I believe, the 12 tribes of Israel. The dragon casts down 1/3 of the woman's stars, that is four stars. That is, he kills 1/3 of the nation of Israel's population and controls the land and people for 3.5 years. Michael the archangel, that angel divinely appointed to defend Israel, as we read in Daniel 12 verse 1, he finally intervenes, casts the dragon out, resulting in peace and rest for Israel. But the dragon is angry. We read that tonight, angry at being defeated, and is evicted and transfers his power to the up-and-coming final beast phase, that is the 8th phase. As a result of the dragon transferring his power to the beast ends up wearing his 10 horns. That is, the anti-Israel Muslim confederacy becomes the beast's ally. So that raises the question, who exactly is the beast? The answer, I believe, is in Revelation 19, verses 17 to 18, where reference is made to a call being made to the birds of prey to gather together for the supper of God. That is, to eat the flesh of the beast and the 10 horns who are going to be killed at the Battle of Armageddon when our Lord Jesus Christ returns. The marginal reference in most Bibles accepts that this statement is quoting Ezekiel 39 verse 17, which refers to birds and animals eating the flesh of armies which invade the land of Israel in the latter days. The Spirit of God is telling us here that the beast and his allies, the 10 kings or the 10 horns, who are being devoured by the birds in Revelation 19, are the same armies referred to in Ezekiel 39. So the question is, who exactly are these armies? Well, if we go back to Ezekiel 39, we find it's a sequel to chapter 38 and does give us an important connection. Ezekiel 38 verse 2 refers to the leader of the invasion force as Gog of the land of Magog, prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, reading from the Revised Standard Version. Most authorities agree that Rosh was the ancient name for Russia, and that Meshech and Tubal were areas up in the Russian territory. Ezekiel 38 says that Gog comes from the uttermost, that is the remotest parts north of Israel. So this could hardly refer to Syria or even Turkey, but rather Russia. Moscow, in fact, is in direct longitudinal line with Jerusalem. On this basis, it's believed the end-time 8th beast will involve Russia, and that the leader, Gog, is also referred to in Daniel chapter 11 as the king of the north. And in 2 Thessalonians 2, the Apostle Paul refers to him as the man of sin. In Ezekiel 38, Gog is referred to as coming from Magog, which was in southern Russia, as you see on the map here. Now, Gog is a symbolical name, not a real name. The Bible does not actually reveal the real name, but we are told in Revelation 13 that the leader is a man, and that the number, that is the numerical value of his name, is 666. He will obviously be of a nationality whose letters of the alphabet have a numerical value, as for example, the Greek language. In fact, in view of the reference in Revelation 13 verse 2 to the beast looking like a leopard, which symbolized the Greek power in Daniel 7 verse 6, there must surely be a Greek connection, and you would expect Greece to be involved in this final confederacy. Those who understand the number of his name will be able to see and discern his identity when he starts to rise to power. This is the reason for the Spirit of God giving us this information, so that we will recognize him and prepare ourselves for the trouble and tribulation we know he's going to cause. The symbolical name Gog means high, exalted, imposing, like a mountain, which is quite fitting because he is quite haughty, very arrogant, very egotistical and aggressive. Like Hitler, he will be a dictator, answer to nobody. Daniel 11 says, he shall do according to his will. He will have tremendous power and authority, more than any other dictator in human history, I believe. The full text in Daniel 11 verse 36 to 38 says this: he shall exalt himself and shall magnify himself above every god, and will speak outrageous things against the God of gods. He shall have no regard for the God of his ancestors, that is, Russian ancestors, who were actually quite religious, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above them all. Instead of them, he will honour the God of forces or munitions, which his ancestors did not know. As shall be pointed out shortly, there are reasons for believing that the force or munitions referred to here, which were unknown to his ancestors, relate to nuclear power. 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 3 to 4 refers to this man as, quote, the man of sin. Why? Because he will be the sum total, the full embodiment of sin and lawlessness. Everything that sin and the depravity of sin is capable of, this man will manifest to the fullest degree. I believe he will be a real shocker. Paul says in these verses that he will oppose and exalt himself above every god there is, that is, every so-called god, and every object of worship. And he will take his seat in the temple of God, that is, the Jewish temple, which will be at Jerusalem at the time, proclaiming himself to be God. Consistent with this are references in Revelation to the beast demanding to be worshipped, which involves bowing and prostrating before him. There's nothing new under the sun. Rulers in the past have deified themselves, proclaiming themselves to be gods on earth and demanding to be worshipped by the people, and the man of sin will do the same in a much more extreme way. The only difference is rulers in the past did have their own gods. They did believe in gods and they worshipped them. But this man of sin will not acknowledge or worship any god. He will claim to be the only God and will demand all to worship him and no other God. The man of sin is unquestionably anti-theistic, an atheist. He will be a more extreme version of the atheistic communist regime in Russia before him, but it will not profit him in the end, that is for sure. The beast cannot therefore be the Pope, as some have believed, because he is theistic, not anti-theistic. However, he is Antichrist. due to his immaculate conception doctrine, which denies that Jesus came in the same sin-prone flesh as man. The beast is anti-God due to denying that God exists. The Roman Catholic Church, along with its popes, is referred to in Revelation 17, not as a beast, but as a harlot, which is a biblical term for an apostate religious system. The wine held in her hand signifies her false teaching, by which the minds of millions have been befuddled and corrupted. Sitting on the beast, or actually Revelation 17 depicts the harlot sitting on the beast for a short period of time before he attains full power. This signifies influence exercised by the harlot over the countries that ultimately come under the beast's power and influence and their support of the church. But Revelation 17 verse 16 through to chapter 18 say that the beast and the 10 horns hate the harlot. It's evident from this the harlot cannot be the beast. They are entirely separate and distinct powers. To make the harlot the beast would be like trying to say a jockey riding a horse is actually the horse. Being anti-God and therefore anti-religious, it is not surprising that the beast will hate and resent the influence exercised by a powerful religious institution such as the Roman Catholic Church. Due to political expediency, the beast will initially tolerate the church, but will have the intention of getting her off his back. The 10 horns, being Islamic nations, will hate her as well and want to destroy her. Prophecies in Daniel and Revelation reveal that the beast will not only be anti-Israel and anti-Roman Catholic, but also anti-Christian, and will in fact put many Christians to death in the end time. Revelation 17 verse 16 goes on to say that the beast and the 10 horns will burn the great city of the harlot with fire and destroy it, showing once again the harlot cannot be the beast. This great city is identified in Revelation 17 verse 9 as the city of 7 hills, which is Rome, a section of which you see in this picture. During the period of the Roman Empire in New Testament times, Rome was known as the city of 7 hills, and this is well documented. Revelation 17 verse 18 clinches it because it says, quote, "This is that great city which rules over the kings," that is, kingdoms of the earth. At that time, the statement was made in the 1st century AD, Rome did, in fact, rule the nations. According to Revelation 18, the beast and 10 horns completely burn and destroy the city of Rome within an hour. With what kind of fire could a city the size of Rome be burned and destroyed within an hour? Certainly not the kind that burned the city while Nero played his fiddle. There's only one kind of fire that could do that, namely nuclear. And as we know, Russia is not short of nuclear weapons. In fact, since the breakup of the Soviet Union, nuclear missiles have even gone missing. It's not difficult to see, therefore, that when the beast comes to power, he will have access to them and will use them. Reference is made in Revelation 13 even to fire being called down from heaven. How could nations fight against a power that has no hesitation or compunction about sending nuclear weapons on cities like Rome and threatens to send more on other cities unless they submit to his terms and rule? Is it no wonder Revelation says the nations will say, "Who can make war with the beasts?" What a moral dilemma this will be for nations like America, Britain, France, and other nations, even though they also have access to nuclear warheads. They're not likely to retaliate against a maniac who drops a warhead on a city like Rome by sending their own nuclear weapons upon a city or cities in an attempt to kill this man. No, the cities and nations of the world will be held to ransom by this man, and they will be forced to submit to him. Who can make war with the beast is the exclamation and possibly newspaper headlines that will be expressed at the time. It really does speak volumes. As a result of Rome and the Vatican, the power centre of the Roman Catholic Church, suffering a death blow and burial, the worldwide church would be thrown into utter disarray. It would be controlled by the beast. It would be a pawn in his hands and used to his advantage. Reference in Revelation 13 to another beast coming up out of the earth like a lamb with two horns and speaking like a dragon could in fact symbolise a resurrected, that is, restructured church controlled by the beast, referred to elsewhere in Revelation as a false prophet who promotes the beast by performing pseudo signs and wonders. Coming up out of the earth could signify being raised from a death blow to a new role. Having the appearance of a lamb does suggest a profession of Christ. The two horns suggest aggression, and speaking like a dragon implies sharing the dragon's anti-Israel spirit, which implies gross ignorance of the Word of God. It really is a variation of a wolf in sheep's clothing. There are therefore three beasts in Revelation. There's the dragon, the beast himself, and the false prophet, that is the lamb with two horns. This unholy trinity is grouped together in Revelation 16, where each of the three beasts have a demon coming out of their mouth like a frog, which signifies insane utterances, insane propaganda, hopping here, there, and everywhere, croaking for support to invade and attack Israel. It's insane because it precipitates the second coming of Jesus and the Battle of Armageddon, which destroys them. Revelation 17 verse 11 declares that the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth and is of the seven. This suggests that the end-time beast will be a repetition or revival of one of the previous beasts. We can narrow the beast down to being a repetition of one of the first five, because the words "is not" mean he is not the already existing sixth beast, the Roman Empire, which existed when these words were uttered to John. He did not exist in the first century. And in view of the statement that this eighth beast was, it is clear that he could not be the seventh, that is the dragon, because Revelation 17 verse 8 says he was yet to come. The end-time beast must therefore be a repetition or a repetition of the same spirit of one of the first five, which were Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, and Greece. Well, he cannot be Egypt because the dragon with 10 horns is an Egyptian-led confederacy, and as already pointed out, he is the seventh beast phase yet to come. Moreover, as we've seen, the beast is the king of the north, whereas Egypt is south, and will, in the end, actually fall out with the beast and be attacked by him, as we read in Daniel chapter 11, verse 42. Neither can he be Assyria, Babylon, or Persia, who are now represented by Iraq and Iran, both of whom, as we'll see, will be confederates of the beast, not the beast himself. That is, the beast will not be Iraq or Iran, but will incorporate them. Having the mouth of a lion and the feet of a bear actually indicates this. By this process of elimination, we are left with Greece, as seen here on a modern map to the west of Turkey across the Aegean Sea. But the problem is, as seen on this map, Greece, represented there by Macedonia, is west of Israel, not north. And Bible prophecy requires the end-time beast, Gog, to be situated in the north. However, as we saw in an earlier program, the Greek Empire established by Alexander the Great occupied territory north of Israel, as you can see on this map, the brown area on that map. This was represented by the belly and thighs of brass on the metallic image. It was also represented by a leopard with 4 heads in Daniel 7 verse 6, you'll remember, and then by a goat with a notable horn in Daniel chapter 8. The notable horn, of course, got broken, representing Alexander the Great's death, and 4 horns came up in its place, which run parallel with the 4 heads of the leopard. The 4 heads and 4 horns represent the fourfold division of Alexander's empire among his 4 generals. It was Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy, as is indicated on this map here. But as pointed out, Bible prophecy only refers to the kingdoms of Seleucus and Ptolemy because their territories were on the north and south side of Israel. Israel was the corridor in between. In Daniel 11, they're referred to as the king of the north and the king of the south, being north and south of Israel. Now, as mentioned earlier, Daniel 8 verse 9 on says a little horn was to come out of one of the 4 horns of the goat, causing great havoc for Israel, terminating their worship and desecrating the temple at Jerusalem. We learn from history that this rule refers to Antiochus Epiphanes, who you see here, who being a descendant of Seleucus, grew out of his Greek kingdom north of Israel. He's referred to as King of the North in Daniel chapter 11. He was an extremely evil and vile anti-Israel king who invaded Israel, waging war with them, killing many, subjecting the survivors to a time of tribulation involving a total period of 2,300 days. The daily sacrifice was stopped for 1,260 of these days, 3.5 years. A statue of Zeus was set up in the temple by Antiochus, desecrating it, and swine was sacrificed on the altar to deliberately outrage the Jews, not to mention God. Priests were massacred, infants who were circumcised were slaughtered and hung around their mothers' necks. Copies of the law were burned. Now, significantly enough, not only is Antiochus Epiphanes, seen here again on a coin, referred to as a little horn, so also is the man of sin, that is Gog of the land of Magog, the end-time king of the north who invades Israel and who becomes the 8th and final beast phase. The man of sin is referred to in Daniel 7 as a little horn coming up among 10 horns, whereas Antiochus is referred to in Daniel 8 as a little horn that comes up out of one of the goat's horns. And both are referred to as King of the North in Daniel chapter 11. What the prophecies say about the attitude and activities of each of these horns is so similar that some have concluded they refer to one and the same power. And this would not be surprising if one was a revival of the other. It's to be expected that a power that is a revival of a past power would closely resemble it. For this reason, the section in Daniel 11, which refers to Antiochus, the historical king of the north, it flows straight into the prophetical time of the end section in verse 40, and also refers to the end time king of the north, without distinguishing between the two, giving the impression that they're referring to one and the same person. This surely implies the end-time invasion of Israel and the ensuing tribulation will be a repetition or a revival of the history that took place during the period of the Greek Empire, represented by the fifth head on the beast. For this reason, it is stated in Revelation 13 verse 2 that the beast looked like a leopard. That is, the dominant characteristic was that of a leopard, which of course is the animal that represented Greece in Daniel chapter 8. However, it's not only and entirely a leopard, it's got a lion's mouth and bear's feet and 10 horns. It could also be, as I have suggested previously, that the man of sin himself will be of Greek extraction, and that Greece itself will be a major participant in the end-time invasion of Israel. However, the man of sin's army will not be only and entirely Greece. It will incorporate Greece, but will also incorporate other nations, as we've seen. Having the same title, King of the North, as Antiochus, it is reasonable to conclude that the end-time King of the North will at least have influence over the same territory north of Israel, seen in yellow on this map. Today, this embraces Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Turkmenistan, etc. Ezekiel 38 says the North African countries of Libya and Ethiopia, that is Sudan, will also be involved. Magog, as seen on this map, is further north again in southern Russia. Gog will obviously have control of this area and maybe much more, if not all, of Russia. This map depicts the invasion forces coming down from Russia, joined and supported by forces from Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran, etc., and nations in North Africa, all converging on Israel with the intention of destroying the nation and taking possession of the land. The countries involved are mostly Muslim, as seen on this map. Like Antiochus, this eighth end-time beast, under the leadership of Gog, the man of sin, will cause much death, much destruction and tribulation. He will also, like Antiochus, take away the daily sacrifice for 3.5 years, desecrate the temple, and tread Jerusalem underfoot. Prior to this, the dragon will have prevailed over Israel for 3.5 years also, as we've seen. So there are 2 3.5-year periods involved in the end time. But these 2 3.5-year periods do not immediately precede and succeed each other. There is a gap in between. During the first 3.5-year period, the dragon, as we've seen, casts down 1/3 of Israel's population, and during the second 3.5-year period, the beast kills another third, not just men, but women and children also, for which reason Jesus said, "Woe to those who give suck in those days." This is inferred from a prophecy in Zechariah 13 verse 8, which refers to 2/3 of the population being killed and the final third being purged. On this basis, well in excess of 6 million Jews could be killed, confirming the prophecy of Jesus that it will be the worst time ever of tribulation in Jewish history, which means being even worse than the Holocaust. In every respect, Antiochus was a type or foreshadow, a preview really, of the end-time man of sin, even in relation to the number, that is the numerical value of his name, that is the 666. As you see here, the name Epiphanes has a numerical value of 660, but it has been claimed that the name Epiphanes can be spelled Epiphania, which results in a numerical value of 666. It's claimed that Antiochus took for himself the title Epiphania, which means God manifest, and that in Greek the phrase I am God on earth totals 666. Antiochus clearly deified himself and was a type in this respect of the man of sin. If so, this would be significant because the man of sin will claim to be God, as we read in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and is going to sit in the temple of God. And there's only one place you can sit in the temple of God, and that's on the Ark of the Covenant in the most holy place, which represents God's throne on earth. Now, the beast in Revelation is a composite beast, containing characteristics of the beasts in Daniel chapter 7. It looks like a leopard, with feet like a bear, and a mouth like a lion. And in Daniel chapter 7, these features represented Greece, Babylon, that's Iraq today, and Persia, which is Iran today. And this confirms the beast's jurisdiction over those areas. Revelation actually says he will have power over all nations. These nations and others are specifically mentioned in end-time prophecies, such as Ezekiel chapter 38, Daniel 11, verse 40 to 45, and in the prophecy of Joel, etc. Some of the nations listed are Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, Gomer, Turkey, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestinians, Iraq, and Syria. 10 nations. Rolling and incorporating the different beasts into one and being destroyed together when the beast is destroyed calls to mind that all the metals in the image in Daniel chapter 2, although different and representative of successive empires, will nevertheless be destroyed together at the second coming of Christ and the battle of Armageddon. The word together is used in Daniel chapter 2. As in the case of the beasts being all rolled into one, so also the metals are all rolled into one image in Daniel chapter 2, signifying an ultimate confederation of nations in the latter days, forming the most powerful anti-Israel empire in world history. So there is both a historical and prophetical aspect to the metals and the beasts. Revelation 13 verse 16 to 17 says, the beast will compel everyone to be marked on the right hand or forehead with his name or the number of his name, that is 666. Those who refuse to do this will fail to be able to buy or sell. Those who agree to do it will fail to qualify for God's kingdom and eternal life. The beast will obviously have complete economic control over the nations. The mark of the beast will have a similar function to a barcode, which is printed on all goods in a supermarket. Unless it's passed along the scanner, a purchase cannot be made. Some think the mark could be tattooed onto the skin, either visibly or invisibly. Invisible mark can be put on the skin by laser, which show up under infrared scanners, which could be used at checkout counters. Even a microchip chip could be implanted. However, at the end of the day, the mark may simply be made by individuals themselves with a pen like this or this, showing that they give allegiance to the beast and therefore qualified to buy and sell. Whatever procedure is involved with the mark, its function could be compared with the ration cards used during the Second World War, without which food and other items could not be legally obtained. But coming back to Ezekiel 38, we learn from verse 11 that prior to the beast invading Israel, Israel will be at rest, dwelling safely and securely, without walls, without bars and gates. This is speaking about Israel not requiring a defence system due to no threat of attack or war. Such is not the case today, of course. Israel is armed to the teeth and always on high alert. And talking about walls, as seen in these pictures, Israel has constructed a concrete barrier to provide security against terrorists coming from Palestinian territory in particular, which, as we know, was breached on the 7th of this month by Hamas terrorists. The total length is approximately 700 kilometres, it's about 430 miles, and 8 metres or 26 feet high, much higher than the Berlin Wall. So, in every respect, Israel today is far from being without walls and a defence system. She could only be in that position if the threat of attack by Muslim nations was removed. Such will be the case if the dragon in Revelation 12, who is defeated by Michael, represents those anti-Israel Muslim nations. The rest and peace that would ensue for Israel would be a good time to rebuild the temple at Jerusalem and reinstate the daily sacrifice, both of which have to exist when the beast invades the land. The supernatural intervention of Michael the archangel could in fact result in some sort of a religious revival in Israel, which would even all the more bring about the rebuilding of the temple. According to 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 4, the man of sin will be sitting in the temple, desecrating it when Christ comes. And it's stated in Daniel 12 verse 11 that the daily sacrifice will have been stopped. In order for the man of sin to stop it, the daily sacrifice obviously must be reinstated before he invades the land. And Daniel chapter 12 teaches that the stopping of the daily sacrifice will be the starting date for the end time prophetical time periods, literal periods of 1260, 1290 and 1335 days. In view of the fact that Antiochus Epiphanes and his 3.5 years desecration of the temple and termination of the daily sacrifice was a type of things to come in the end time beast era, the 2,300 days prophecy relating to him in Daniel 8 may also have an end time application. If so, it could point to the time it will take after Christ's return for the temple to be built at Jerusalem, to which mortal worshippers will come during the millennial reign of Christ. It's described in the last section of the book of Ezekiel, and this here is an artist's impression of it. It's 1 mile, 1,500 metres square, according to Ezekiel's prophecy. It seems fairly clear that Jesus returns 1,260 days after the Jewish temple is desecrated and the daily sacrifice is terminated by the beast. If the 2,300 days has the same starting date as the 1,260 days, it would extend 1,040 days, almost 3 years beyond it. This may represent the time it will take to build the temple. All nations will be involved in the building of it, we learn from prophecy, especially in Isaiah, so the construction of it could happen very quickly. Regarding the reference in Daniel 2 to the feet and toes of the image being made of iron mixed with clay. Significantly enough, the word mixed comes from the Hebrew word Arab and is used in relation to Arab tribes in Jeremiah 25 verse 24. These are the people of mixed ancestry who have never remained united and cohesive, always quarrelling and falling out with themselves and others. Except in one particular case, they are almost always solidly united in their hatred of Israel and in their ambition to destroy the nation and seize the land. As we've seen, there will be a confederation between Russia and Muslim nations, and this is signified by the iron mixed with clay. But there can be no real cohesion because it will be a mixture of atheism and Mohammedanism, fundamentally conflicting ideologies. Both are diametrically opposed to each other as far as basic philosophy of life is concerned. One is atheistic, the other theistic. The only reason the two can come together as a military unit is because of political expediency. They have a common goal, Hitler's goal, to destroy Israel. It is the anti-Israel spirit that unites them and enables them to join forces to invade the land of Israel. But it will all be to no avail. What they fail to take into account is that not only is there a God, but he is Israel's God. And he will send his son Jesus to deal with them in the most devastating way possible. He will fall on them like a ton of bricks, causing the confederacy to break into pieces and to be utterly destroyed. And never again will a nation rise its hand against Israel. It will be a modern version of Humpty Dumpty, having a great fall, breaking into pieces which cannot be put back together again. But the stone that smites and destroys the image grows, fills the earth, signifying the growth and expansion of Christ's kingdom upon earth. As we read in Daniel 2 verse 44, and in the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be brought to ruin, and the kingdom itself will not be passed on to any other people. It will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms, and it itself will stand to times indefinite. We read this in Revelation 11 verse 15. The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. Notice it says are in the present tense, as if it's already happened. Well, of course, it hasn't already happened, but it's so definite that it will happen, God speaks of it as having already happened. In the Lord's Prayer, part of the prayer is, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth, even as it is in heaven. This is what the Lord's Prayer is all about. Is it your prayer? Is it your hope? Well, this is what the hope of the gospel is all about. And there is no other hope. It is the only hope.